Welcome to Deal to Heal with E.J.A.M.P.S podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Hey guys, real quick, before we jump into the episode, I need you to do the 3 S's for me. What is that? First of all, I need you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss an episode of our podcast. Number 2, I need you to share it with your family and friends. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else. Lastly, I need you to say something. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see from us, what you like, what you don't like. We are open to your suggestions. We want to know everything that you want to let us know about the podcast. All right. Now, get back to the episode. All right. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E.J.A.M.P.S podcast. I am your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E.J.A.M.P.S podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our subscribe to our podcast on all of our podcast listening platforms. And again, make sure you guys are checking us out on our YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal podcasting network. On that channel, you will find several podcasts, including the Deal to Heal with E.J.A.M.P.S podcast that you are currently watching, but also the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where we just talk about I talk with other girl dads like myself, and sometimes even daughters, about the daddy-daughter relationship in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So make sure you guys are checking us out there. Again, that's at the Deal to Heal podcasting network on YouTube. Make sure you guys go check us out. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit us up on Facebook, all of your social media platforms, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Our product of the week, as you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase in order for us to pay our bills, basically. So our product of the week is our Deal, Heal, Fulfill t-shirt, which is our actual standard t-shirt, the one you see me wear every week, supporting our mission to help people deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill their purpose. You can get yours at deal2healtees.com. Again, that's deal2healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Make sure you guys go to deal2healtees.com to grab our product of the week and to help us bring you guys the amazing podcast that we do every week. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest. Dr. Vondale Singleton is here with us today. First of all, Doc, I want to say thank you so very much for being here, for taking out the time to be here, because you could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. How you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate all of your efforts and the great work that you're doing. It's an honor to be here, my man.
Oh, no problem, man. It's an honor to have you. And we'll get more into I guess I could share a little bit of how I even came across you and the C.H.A.M.P.S organization. Definitely following Dr. Eric Thomas. I seen the connection with you guys, and just kind of had heard of C.H.A.M.P.S and was able to go to a couple events and things that I'm in with this podcast. And you go to all these different conferences and things of that nature. And I ran into a gentleman by the name of Marcellus Griffin. And, we kind of hit it off and, became friends and was just talking about the different things that we were into. We actually met at a podcast event. And so we're just kind of, we had podcasting and in common, and was going over some things that we were doing. And I was like, well, I'm a part of the speakers group, next level speakers. And, I told him about that. And he was like, well, I'm a part of this mentor group, Champs Male Mentoring. And so we kind of swapped information, and he became a part of Next Level, and I became part of Champs. And that's when I really learned the details and everything that Champs was about, through that conversation. And then later on connecting with you guys, and becoming a member of the Calumet City chapter, and so that's kind of my introduction to, the Champs organization, and definitely being able to meet you and the other mentors. But we want to go back. We want to go back to before Champs. You know what I mean? Just little Vondale coming up in the city of Chicago. Just tell us a little bit more of your background and your story, even leading up to, the point where you wanted to start Champs.
Man, of course. So I'm a native of Chicago, born and raised on the South Side in a place called the Otta B. Wells Housing Projects. Anybody know about the Otta B's? They know it's on the low end. We say the low end and no end. Grew up there, man. It was in the early 1980s. My father, he was born and raised there. My mother was born and raised there. So both sides of my family are from the Otta B. Wells Housing Projects. My grandmother, my grandfather on both sides of the family. And my father, he was the youngest of 9. And my mother was the second oldest. And, so when I was born at a time where the crack epidemic was introduced to the world. And unfortunately, my mom got hooked on drugs at a very, very early age. Sweet woman. The memories that I have of my mother are near and dear to my heart. But in those times, it wasn't just Chicago. It was an epidemic all across urban America, right, in the mid 80s. And I just saw the demise, man, of what the drug situation did for a lot of families in these inner cities. And my family was no exception. And then, of course, my father, he was a great guy. He tried his best, and just in terms of giving me instruction and giving me direction. But, of course, later on got caught up in the drug epidemic as well on both sides, user and seller. And the Bible says a house divided against itself can't stand. And so you have a kid in the middle of a house where it's drugs being sold out the house and used in the house. It has an impact. That vicarious trauma, what we talk about, is very real, is when you may not necessarily be directly dealing with the drugs, but the impact of the drugs have an effect on you. And so my mentality was just a little bit different from most, because I always wanted to get my family out of the situations that they were in. I hated to see my mom on that. This is even before my younger brother, Ricky, was born, right? In those first 5 years before he was born, I was just seeing some things and being a part of some things that young kids just shouldn't be exposed to. But nonetheless, you fast forward that, and this is what we talk about, Champs mentoring. The power of mentorship is very real. It's a very real, tangible thing that somebody can manifest and transfer what they have over to somebody else, whether it's through spoken word or through modeling actions. And so I had a mentor at the age of 17 that really had an impact on my life. Steve Robertson, he got me into the Upward Bound program. This is after the projects were torn down. We were moved, we were displaced, so on and so forth. But this gentleman came in my life, and he really gave me the blueprint of not just mentorship, about a pathway out of what I thought I would be stuck in, that I thought that I was going to be dead or locked up before the age of 18. And when he got me on my first flight and I flew out to California, I saw that palm tree. And then 4 years later, when I was able to get my college degree, I asked him one question, and that was, what I need to do to pay you back for what you've done for me. And he said, the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. That's how you pay me back. And boom, that's when I got that mentoring bug, bro. And here we are.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. You mentioned about your dad being one of 9. I'm actually one of 9 myself, the oldest of the boys in my family. I have 3 older sisters, and definitely understand, growing up in Chicago, somewhat affected by the drug epidemic. Not so much in my particular family structure, but still, hit some hardships with my dad, and to where he struggled with alcoholism for a while. After we at one time we lived a middle, I always say middle to high class lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? We had the house up off 63rd. You know what I'm saying? We had the house with the gate, with the camper. We took vacations in the summer and the whole 9 yards. And through some, I don't know, I was young, whatever happened, that we end up losing everything, and starting over with a wife, you know what I'm saying, and 9 kids, from going from having your own space, your own house, your own everything, to your whole family staying in one bedroom in your mom's house. You know what I mean? So that was my dad's story, and so, dealing with things that happened. I also with losing one of my uncles, which was his best friend, to gun violence. He dealt with some things. And so again, not necessarily impacted by the crack epidemic, but definitely with alcoholism, because of him trying to deal with the things that he dealt with. But he stuck it out. You know what I'm saying? And years later, he's still here doing fine. My mom has passed on at this time. But I mentioned that because we are affected by our upbringing in different ways, which makes us look at life differently. And which is one of the things that I love about C.H.A.M.P.S, right? Which is the background and the viewpoint of the mentors are all different. You know what I'm saying? Like we all didn't have the same experience that brought us to the table to want to make a difference in the lives of others. Because I tell everybody, my experience is not the typical experience, because a lot of times you hear mentors be like, well, my dad wasn't in my life, and I did this and got caught up in this, and so that's why I want to be a mentor. Well, mine is the opposite. My dad has always been in my life. You know what I'm saying? And I was raised in a 2-parent household, and until my mom passed away. You know what I'm saying? So my example was different in the sense that I had my father in my life, but because I had my father in my life, I was able to see the difference in between my upbringing and the upbringing of some of my friends and family whose fathers was not active in their lives, which put the bug in me early to become a mentor, even as a real young age. That, man, when I get old enough to make a difference, I'm gonna try to make a difference. And that was always part of my mindset, growing up. And then, fast forward years later, here I am, a part of C.H.A.M.P.S. So let's go back a little bit. So you decide to start C.H.A.M.P.S, and where did you start at first? First of all, where did you even come up with the acronym and the whole mindset behind the C.H.A.M.P.S organization itself? And then how did you actually start it? Like, what was the foundation ground point that said, all right, we're gonna start here and go up?
Yeah. So after, like, I graduated from college, and I had that conversation with my mentor about what do I need to do to pay you back for what you've done for me. And he said the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. That's when really it was birthed. Before it was ever a program, it was this seed or this idea that part of my life, DNA, purpose, and mission was to give back, and to give back like he did for me, providing these opportunities and exposure, getting kids out of the element, helping them get to and through college, just really providing that support and spiritual foundation along with that too. So for me, I think the initial seed of the idea of mentorship started then. And even my wife to this day, and my mentor, Pastor Steve, he always said, man, you always said that you was going to go back to Chicago. I went to college in Oklahoma, a place called Oral Roberts University. I worked in North Tulsa in the Tulsa Black Wall Street. Also served in church at Artec Church under Dean Boyd, who's I think now the vice president of the university. But so I always had this mentorship cycle around me. I was an RA at the school. I was a head RA. I was brought back to be a resident hall director. So I've always had leadership. It just kind of came natural for me. So I knew I needed to give back and wanted to give back, but it became more official when I became a teacher. After I got my degree in education, I went and started teaching in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there I kind of moved from a dean to an assistant principal at a school called C.H.A.M.P. Tulsa. Knowledge is Power program. It's the largest charter network in the United States. So when I was working there, that's when I really started to think about, okay, it's time to head back to Chicago. My wife at the time was getting her doctorate degree from University of Oklahoma in education. She was a principal. We were both young, but we were well accomplished in our careers in our 20s. And I started to talk to God and pray. And I would see images that were not positive images of young people from Chicago getting shot and killed. A lot of black boys and blood and in the streets and just gangs and warfare and tension and strife. But I'm like, man, I'm a kid from there. And if I made it from all the stuff I went through and I've seen and I was exposed to, it's probably a lot of Vondales back there, right? That I can put my hand on, share a testimony, reach, try to guide in a different direction, just like my mentor did for me. And so that's initially how it started. And then when I got back to Chicago, I worked at a school called Gary Comer College Prep on the south side of Chicago. And while I was the assistant principal, some of the same kids would end up in my office being kicked out of class for various reasons. But it was one trend. It was one message that rung true for all of the young men that I spoke with. And it was a father story. They all had a father story. All these young men that were not engaged in the academic setting for those times had a father story. And it was, I don't know my father. My father's locked up or dead, or my father don't want to have anything to do with me. And that was like 90% of the young men. And so I knew at that point I had to do something to stop the bleeding, if you will, right? So I said, all right, got on my knees and I asked God, what am I supposed to do with this? Knowing what I know, I'm back home now. I have this opportunity to give back. And I heard him say C.H.A.M.P.S. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I was on my knees praying. And a few days after praying on that thing, then I heard the acronym, culturally helping and making positive success. And I wrote it down. And so when I went in, I formed it with a small group at the time. It was called an academic lab. It was young ladies and young men. But I told them, hey, I need y'all. We gonna form. And that was the Christian Terry's, who's now our program director. He was that original 8. Robert Jones, who now in his 4th year in the NFL, playing for the Dallas Cowboys, but he was part of those original 8, right? And we just built that thing every Saturday, and then it just started to grow. And it got so big that we had to take it outside of the school, so much so I had to resign and do this full time. And so here we are, 12 years later.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's one of the things I wanted to point out with C.H.A.M.P.S, and even ask, how it even how it makes you feel when you even look at how the organization has grown. One of those things is the amount of mentees that has been through the C.H.A.M.P.S organization that don't just age out and go about their way, but then they turn around and become mentors as well. And I've had the opportunity to meet and work with some of them, myself. And I just think that's number one, a difference in a lot of organizations, because you have a lot of organizations that the kids, come through, and hopefully are better because of it. But with C.H.A.M.P.S, I have seen that it was made such an impact on the students or the mentees, should I say, that they turn around and come back, after they finish and become mentors themselves. And to be able, for me, again, being a part of the Calumet City chapter, I think we have about 3 or 4 mentors who came out, graduated, some went to college and doing their thing, and then came back and was like, all right, let me, become a mentor myself. And now it recycles itself, which makes it even stronger, because there's no better mentor to mentor a child on the principles than a person that believes in the principle, because they believe through it themselves. So
Absolutely.
how does that make you feel to be able to just look back and even like you mentioned about Terry, those original people that's still rocking with you now? Because one of the things, and I know I mentioned Dr. Eric Thomas, and recently they with the ETA and their organization, him and CJ has hit like 20 years working together,
Yeah.
right? And they
So
started that thing together and still together. So for you in
real.
that same light to look at, man, these are the guys that I started this with, and to still have those guys still be a part of it, still see those mentors has came through and came back to now become mentored themselves. How does that make you feel when you look at that, just from a founder's perspective?
Man, it's a blessing. It's so that same mentor, it's funny you bring up ET. So that same mentor who mentored me, that helped expose me and get me on my first flight back in the 90s, was the same mentor that helped ET get one of his first ever motivational speaking contracts.
Mm.
Right. And so our through line is through mentorship. He didn't know that I was connected to Steve. And, so when ET and I met through one of his mentors, and his mentor was like, I got to connect you to ET because y'all got a similar passion in this
Yeah.
way. And come to find out, ET, from Chicago, his mom went to Dunbar like my family went to Dunbar and felt like, so we had this special connection. And then he saw the authenticity of our program and its impact on the young men that we were serving, and how it made the young men feel like that they had ownership, that they wanted to serve in a program that benefited them. ET was like, bruh, I got to be a part of this the rest of my life. Whatever you need me to do, if you ever need me to speak, if you ever need me to come serve, this is it. I've been praying and asking God how I get back home to Chicago. I got it.
Yeah.
This was years ago. And so even with that connection, it's not just impacting the young people, but the young people making an impact on the older people than the adults. And it's beautiful, bro, because all of the connections and relationships that we've built has come through this authentic reach in terms of the work that we're doing on the ground with boys and young men of color. Is real. Like nobody will ever say mentor is never needed. I don't care what field you in, what business, government, school, doctor, lawyer. It's always some type of level of mentorship being provided. And the fact that we're doing it with the young men who can't pay us back. Right. Like ET always said, C.H.A.M.P.S is getting to you before you ever realize you need the stuff. Right? We getting to you while you're young. And we're building a foundation to say, hey, this is the path that we need for you to walk in it. And when you do, come back along the path and bring other people with you. That's the difference right there. It's like we're not just a transactional organization or program to say, hey, come do this. It's two-way. It's the master teacher, but it's also the co-expert. We learning from the young men learning from us. And it's this beautiful exchange that's so organic, so real, and so powerful that if more programs, organizations, communities will work like this, we will never have a need for anything. We'll be the richest people in the world because we understand this very principle. It's more blessed to give than to receive. And if we all had this mentality that I'm gonna just outgive you, outgive you, and we all giving to each other in that way, it's a beautiful exchange that's never broken. And so, yeah, man, I love ET. I love CJ's. I remember when ET first got his land in his church out in Lansing. And he was like, bro, he was sharing a vision, and he was like, man, I want you and your whole family to come. I'm gonna pay for y'all to come out and see. And I was at the grand opening, and I remember meeting his biological father, and his father was watching me shape my son and chastise my son in the hotel lobby. And I'd never known that was ET's father watching me. And the next day we were over at the church, and ET's father came over to me and he was like, hey, man, I saw what you were doing with your son, and I'm letting you know how that impressed me. I wish I would have did it for my son. I'm the guy that ET always talk about who wasn't there for him.
Right.
I'm ET's father, and my mouth dropped. I'm like, so he was like, keep doing what you doing. I wish I was there for ET, but I'm the father he always talking about in those messages, right?
Yeah.
So it's a power again for me to now say, how do we position ourselves to give what we supposed to give, receive what we supposed to get, give it back out, and build this continuum for other mentees and mentors to do the same thing. That's the power of Champs, bro.
Yeah, I love it, man, and I connect with it so much because right before COVID hit, right, one of the things that I want to do, again, being a mentor at heart, I'm like, all right, I want to do this program. So I've started a program called M.A.N, which is men activating newly untapped potential, right? And it's supposed to be for like, teenagers. But as I was kind of working through it and meeting different guys, what I realized was a lot of us as adult men didn't have the influence of the positive father figures in our lives. And so even though now we're adults now, we still missing some stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so one of the things that Dr. Eric Thomas always talked about was like, all right, until you're ready to start your own, join somebody that's already doing it, And so when I was going to start my organization, me and another gentleman, we had got a contract with a school. We was going to start an after school program, running this, and all of that. Then COVID hit, right, and shut everything down. So I was like, all right, but still, that spirit to serve and that spirit to mentor was still in me, That's powerful. And so, years later, when I again found out about Champs and was exposed to it, I was like, I definitely want to be a part of that, and have been since then. So I'm just so I don't even know what to say, you know what I mean? Because I'm still new to Champs. You know what I'm saying? It's only been like maybe a year since I've been in, but even my exposure, when you start talking about the exposure of the children, but even my exposure to being able to serve with Champs, at the school, giving out food, whether it's food, serve at a couple events where ETFs came to speak, just being that presence there. And even now with some of the things that's going on in the city, and to be able to show up, for Champs to be able to show up and take part, you know what I'm saying? Like whenever I have the opportunity, when we're doing something, when we're called out to the community, I make sure I have my jacket on, you know what I'm saying? I have my shirt on, making sure that I represent Champs, when we're at, boots on the ground to be visible. You know what I'm saying? Because I really believe in the program and I really believe in what you started and what we're doing that is definitely making a difference in the city of Chicago. And not just the city of Chicago, because once we start putting stuff online, you know what I'm saying? Like it goes out to the world.
Absolutely.
Everybody is seeing it. Everybody is seeing the impact that, we're making here. And again, not just here, but throughout the whole city. I want to talk about, we mentioned about Dr. Eric Thomas, and that collaboration, but he's not the only collaboration that Champs have. We got My Brother's Keeper, we got the Jordan brand and different things. How important is that to you to connect with these different, collaborators, whether it be influencers, speakers, whatever, and how much of an impact do you believe that those collaborations have made in Champs to help Champs even become more of a staple in the community and to the real of this is how you do this mentoring thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I like how you said that. I think the impact has gone both ways, because when you growing up in like broken families, you have to find other means of fulfilling those gaps that you need from a nurturing standpoint.
Yeah.
So you learn real quick, how to communicate, how to network to get what you need, how to build community. Because again, if it's a lack at home, you got to get it from somewhere, right?
Right.
So for me, relationships have always been important. It was, I think, one of the things that God was able to bless with me because, I didn't have that strong, solid foundation, and just in terms of my immediate family. So when I'm always talking about family, I'm just talking about, within the context of my mother and my father. Extended family has always been there, and I love them. but home wasn't always squared away. So over the years, I knew one of the things that came naturally with Champs is being able to share the great work with other people and to have them buy into what we were doing, whether it be, sports figures and, taking our trip, our first international trip with Dwayne Wade to China, right? That came through relationship of a young man I presented the opportunity to that he was prepared and ready for, and he took the next level, but it bounced back because, again, I am the curator for it. So I end up getting like the opportunity to go with him, right? And then other partnerships, winning the White House Student Film Festival back in 2015 and being invited to the White House and seeing the first Black president in the White House. And you got 30, 35 young men in DC, Washington, DC. It's my first time going along with the young men going. And then from there, creating the Born to Win conference a year later to commemorate what we experienced in the White House in DC. And going into 10 years in 2025, 2026 school year, and, having to reach out and connect with people to say, all right, who do y'all want to come in and speak? Right. Our first keynote speaker ever for that conference was Tim Hardaway, the Hall of Famer from Chicago, born and raised. He spoke for a bottle of water. He ain't charged a fee. He just said, man, have me a bottle of water ready when I get there. That's how much you pay me. Right. And, having that experience leading to opportunities, jobs, pathways. I remember when E.T. called and said, hey, I want to take the kids to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, what? How we going to start the fundraising for that? He was like, ain't no fundraising, bruh. I got this. I'm going to pay for the hotels, the tickets to the Super Bowl. And this wasn't cheap at all. Definitely. And it wasn't just our boys, it's other boys from Michigan. And then he did it back to back. And then the third year, it was like, I want to take y'all to Dubai. I'm like, what? Yeah. Come on, man. Are you serious? So from the ET relationship and going to the Super Bowl, and then we meet Wallow, right, out there. He meets some of our young men. Then Lil Durk take us to Howard University and to Atlanta on college trips. And we connecting and meeting. And then these branches just start growing. Yeah. Where, you go in with one person, but you meet 10 more people. And now you have these options and say, all right, E.T. spoke at the last Born to Win conference. We had Pastor Hannah, who in the church speak at the conference. Now I can pull Wallow in. Look who spoke at these last come. You need to be a part of it. Oh, I'm there. I'm in. Now he on the roster. Tim Hardaway, the first speaker. So again, you start to build a collection of individuals and institutions, and now you're getting calls from Allstate and you're getting calls from the Obama Foundation, and like President Obama want to sit down and meet with you, right? And have a meeting. And now, as the My Brother's Keeper Chicago Backbone Director, it's a responsibility, not just for Champs, it's for every organization. And we have over 240 organizations that we're working with and have oversight in terms of being a backbone for. Man, it's incredibly hard, arduous work. It's incredibly humbling. But it's also incredibly exciting. Yeah. I'm so optimistic about what the future holds. But then just last week, we get hit hard, right? A mother and her 2 children get jumped. And I get the calls and I walk in to the school to meet the family. And then I see the grandmother who I used to go to church with because I was a youth pastor, right? And then I meet the father. And every day, even up into this day, I'm working with the family. You won't see me posting it on Instagram and Facebook. But like, these are the responsibilities of leadership that's required, right? When you're dealing with social capital. And so, yeah, man, we've had some amazing, we've been to the Nike headquarters multiple times and getting the email from Michael Jordan and Jordan Brand saying, hey, I want to grant y'all out. Like, Michael Jordan don't put his name on too many things at all. So when you get a Michael Jordan anything, bruh, that's symbolic of high level greatness and excellence. It's synonymous. And so, yeah, bro, it's been some crazy stuff. And I always like to say, as much as we've done these past 12 years, we got a long way to go. It's
Yeah.
going to be many
Yeah.
more opportunities. Our dream is to get our own building, a safe and peaceful building where it's ours. We can
Yeah.
go in there 24/7 if we want to. Like this podcast studio, bro, you'll be hosting it out of our own building. We'll have gym. We'll have a barbershop, which we cut the boys' hair. We've cut over 5,000 heads in the past 3 years, and we pay for every single haircut. Young man has never been charged. We provide those hot meals. We ain't charging the boys. When we take the trips out, we ain't charging the boys, man. So we need the support. We need that love. So every time we get that win, we holding it up like a trophy because we know it's blood, sweat, and tears that go with this behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I just want to say, man, because to several things I want to mention, definitely about, you know, the amount of I don't know what the word I want to use. I say input, right? The amount of input that goes into pouring into these young men, you know, when we have have our meetings, our weekly meetings, number one, you know, like you said, making sure that they get the haircuts, making sure that they, they get something to eat, that within itself, as well as, our meetings with the mentors. But then when we take the exposure trips and things of that nature, it's so impactful. Like I said, man, once I heard about it before, again, just hearing about it, and then once I actually became a part of it, I'm like, man, I gotta be a part of this. I gotta be a part of the growth of it, and that's why I wanted to do this episode. I know I've interviewed a couple other members. I've interviewed Marcellus. I've interviewed Aaron Williams, both who are a part of Champs, and looking to interview some more of our Champs mentor, and then do a group interview with all of us, kind of together, and to talk about the mission and where we see it going and the parts that we want to play in it. So I'm very, impressed by the work that have been done. But again, like you're just optimistic about, man, how far are we gonna take this thing?
Let's
what I'm saying? And to go back a little bit, just listening to you talking about the collaboration that's been made, and I think it's so important because I had a conversation with someone the other day. I've been doing more podcasts as guests now. I'm like, all right, let me get back on the other side of the mic so I can just be the guest. And I've done several podcasts. And when I say I'm from Chicago, people are already automatically kind of connected with, like you said, the violence and the things that has been pointed out. But I'm listening to you talk just in the collaborations, and I'm listening to like all of these guys is from Chicago. We talk about the President Obama. We talk about all of us is from Chicago.
There you
know
go.
what I'm saying? And so I tell people, like, you can't really listen to the media. Yes, there is some negative things that are happening in our city, but there's so much more greater.
But it's not the majority, bro. The majority, we winning.
Yeah. And I tell people,
small percentage of people, and it goes so wide, which is very frustrating. Because, when we do get the media exposure, and we've had our share of media exposure and continue to get it, but it don't go as wide as some of the negative rhetoric that happens within the city. And then we got to realize that's just a very, very, very small representation. I was talking to the 9 to 5 millionaire, Jamal King, who's also from Chicago.
Yeah, and I was going to mention Jamal too.
The other day, and we were talking about this very thing because, Jamal was a police officer, so he had a chance to see it up close. But we both, like, once the situation happened with Sean Michelle ice cream shop, he called me. We got Yaya, the owner, on the phone, and we was just like, man, let's spin it around. Let's go out and get a school, adopt a school. Jamal King loaded. He got a lot of money, so he was like, I'll pay for everybody ice cream, right? That come up. And that's what we did. So when we got in front of CBS News and shared what we were doing, we were able to control that narrative. So it's important for us, those who are in places of power that are using our voices, such as yourself, Brother Ernest, and have your podcast and getting positive messages out. We have to make sure that we protect who we really are from an identity standpoint. We can't let nobody come in and dictate to the world who we are when we don't have a say in that. So yeah, man, I appreciate the fact that, like Brother Dilla say, everything dope about America comes from Chicago. That's true.
Yeah. And we have so many, like I said, so many great people here that's doing such great things, man. And a lot of times, again, we don't get the exposure that that we should. And one of the things that I learned, as a young apprentice in the building trades as a bricklayer, my instructor told me early. He said, "Bad news travels faster than good news." You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so people
Mm-hmm.
hear bad things before they hear good things. And even once the good things come out, they might never get that message. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But just to be able to, again, look at the amount of people that's been a part of Champs, that are connected to Champs, that are not outside entities of the city. You know what I'm saying? They're not like people that come from, LA or somewhere. Like, no, these are our people that was born and raised here in Chicago that are making a difference here in Chicago and doing a great job of it. Whether we get in the notoriety or not, I think it's only a matter of time before the world has to acknowledge, the things that's going on in Chicago, because you can only promote the negative so much without having to look at the positive things that's going on in our city with the people that are here that are making a difference. And so, so I think that's important. Before we get out of here, Vondale, real quick, man, I wanted, we talked about the beginning of Champs. We talked about, where Champs is now, but what is your vision for the future for the organization?
Man, the vision for Champs is to continue to grow and scale, to be able to sustain what we have well beyond my years.
Yeah.
It's nothing like when a vision comes to a founder, and once the founder dies, the vision stops.
Yeah.
My vision is, man, let's raise up these young soldiers, other young brothers who have a heart and passion, who's gone through the program, some who come alongside, and let's keep this thing going. Another vision I just mentioned, man, I would love to have a state of the art facility for boys and young men of color in Chicago. There isn't one. I'm putting this out in the world. Michael Jordan, if you listening, brother, come on, man, with that donation. 23 million for jersey number 23, an investment into the youth. There's not a Michael Jordan school in Chicago. And I've shared this with the founders of Jordan and the president of Nike. So what I'm saying isn't like a new conversation, but there's not a Michael Jordan school in Chicago. There's not a Michael Jordan youth complex in Chicago. President Obama's going to be the first because he's building a presidential center in Chicago. So shout out to my man, President Obama, the boss man. But we need MJ because those, to me, are two of the top black male figures in the world right now that's still alive. And they all came through Chicago. So let's pay that forward. So that's a dream to hold space for that. To be in real partnership, and I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination. I think it's valid things that I'm saying here. Nike and Jordan coming together to help us create what I call a Chicago Champions Collection Sportsplex. And Michael Jordan, that logo is in them lights up there with us. So that's a big, big dream and vision I have. And with that is to create jobs, because I want the people that is running that building to be from our communities. The janitors, the security team, the coaches, the mentors, the leaders, the facilitators, the organizers, the program directors. That's 150 people we need to run that building. That's 150 jobs. That's 150 less people on the streets. Right. So I have a real vision behind sustainable infrastructure that's needed to carry out programming at a high level where the city can access it and it will live beyond all of us.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm going to mention something real quick. I want you to touch on it because you mentioned Jordan and the Nike and the Jordan brand, but Champs have been doing some, excuse me, some collaborations with the Bulls surrounding mental health lately. So talk to us a little bit about that program and how that's going.
Yeah, so absolutely. Chicago Bulls is one of our partners. I love our Chicago Bulls partnership. This is our, I think, going on to our 4th or 5th year with the Chicago Bulls as an official partner. And every year they come with some cool opportunities they present to us. But last year, for the first year, they presented an unbelievable opportunity to partner with one of the players. His name is Jalen Smith. He goes by the nickname Sticks. And Sticks got traded from the Indiana Pacers, was coming to the Bulls, and he presented his idea to the Bulls. That wasn't new. He was like, hey, I did this program when I was Indiana Pacer, and it was around mental health. I did with the local kids, and I want to bring that to the Bulls as my activation as a player. Every player is supposed to do something community wise, but he was like, hey, this is more of an ongoing program. It's not just a one-time event. So he went to the Bulls, and story has it from one of the Bulls community workers that told me how it all unfolded. And he said, hey, what are the organizations in Chicago that I can potentially partner this program with? And so they presented a list of organizations that had champs and maybe 6 or 7 other like mentoring type programs on the list. And he chose champs. And so it was a cool honor to have him hand pick us. Yeah. And so we ran the gamut. Almost every month we did something with our Calumet City chapter and Sticks last year. And it was so successful. And shout out to Coach Aaron Williams, our mental health coordinator for Champs. He moderated and led the actual organization and program along the path with Jalen in conversation. But it was so successful that they wanted to run it back for a second year. So we're in our second year. We're kicking it with Sticks, we call it, with the Chicago Bulls as an official partner around mental health and youth development in Chicago, man. It's amazing. So, yeah, that's definitely, I'm glad you brought that up. One of the programs and partners that we're really excited about with C.H.A.M.P.S mentoring.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it, man. Dr. Vondale, Dr. Singleton, man, I really appreciate all the work that you've done. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I came across Champs and man, I'm just so impressed with the work that has been done and the work that's being done, you know, and even I mentioned a little bit about, you know, connecting with the mentors and the heart of the mentors that we have. It's almost like they've been handpicked as well. You know what I'm saying? To be able to work under Aaron Williams, you know, when he was leading the Champs Calumet City location, and now, you know, to be under Johnny, you know what I'm saying? And hopefully we'll get, like I said, I've interviewed Aaron already, but hopefully get Johnny in and some of the other mentors. I'm just so impressed with the heart of the mentors, the work that's been done, the heart of the leadership. You know, even when we have our meetings with our with the administration, should I say, with Quentin and Terry, you know, and listening to their heart and how passionate they are about the organization. Absolutely. And how determined they are to make sure this organization is not going to fail, it's going to keep going, it's going to grow, it's going to do what your vision has been to this point. But not only that, we're all pushing to bring the future of the whole vision together, you know. And I just love the work that the Champs has been doing. I'm so glad to be a part of it, even though, like I said, I'm just getting my foot in the door, but I'm just seeing what's already going on. Like, all right, what can I do? You know, what part can I play? You know, and even having been able to sit down with you, you know, and have this conversation, I'm like, all right, if that's the least I can do right now, then I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? And so I really appreciate you, you know, taking out the time to be here. I really appreciate, again, all the work that you've done, all the work that you're doing, you know, even with Champs. And I'm really just amazed and looking forward to the future of what Champs have to offer, not just the city of Chicago, but to all, you know, the United States and the world, because I believe that we're going to grow to that point, you know what I mean, where we're just, again, affected and touching all the young men, you know, across the world. And so I'm looking forward to being a part of that journey. Before we get out of here, man, I want you to leave us with a word of advice, motivation, you know, whatever you feel on your heart. Also, you know, leave us with your social media handles or things of that nature where we can contact you and definitely support Champs and become a part of Champs. And I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure that you guys are checking us out on our website, which is the dealhealfulfill.org. That is our main website. It's definitely getting an upgrade soon, but you still can go there and find out some information about us. The healfulfill.org. Also, make sure you guys check me out on my speakers page, which is ErnestJamesSpeaksLife.com, where you can find out more information about having me to come in to be a speaker at your organization or your school, to speak life into your students or staff, or even to hold workshops, which I really love to do. So you can find out more information about that at ErnestJamesSpeaksLife.com. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Also, ebooks by ejames.com. I've written several ebooks, and one of them, since we're talking about mentorship, is one that's called From Males to Men, which is a short mentor book that I wrote. Again, talking about those principles of manhood that I believe that every young man should learn, as they transition from teenagers until, to young men. So that's just one of them. We also have the Core Four, which is the core four values that every daughter should get from her father. That ebook we discuss on the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as girl dads, as being girl dads with the other fathers that's on. But you guys can go check out all of the ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com. And if you really like them, you become an affiliate of the ebooks and earn 50% of the purchase price whenever someone buys an ebook with your special link. So make sure you go to ebooksbyejames.com to check that out. And also, we talked a little bit earlier about our inspirational t-shirt line, Deal to Heal Tees. That's Deal, the number 2, healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. You definitely can go there and find out different of our inspirational t-shirts that we have, including our podcast merch, which is our t-shirts with our logos for the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Again, that's Deal, the number 2, healtees.com for our inspirational t-shirt line. And last but not least, over the last couple of years, I've been blessed to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops bi-monthly talking about everything surrounding forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, even forgiveness of the world, to bring that message out, because we believe that forgiveness will play such an important part in some of the ills and some of the things that's going on in our world and in our country. When we learn to forgive and embrace one another, to make definitely such a major impact. And so you can sign up for our next virtual workshop at forgivenessmission.com, or you can go to Eventbrite and look up the Forgiveness Workshop sponsored by the Forgiveness Mission. The virtual workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless. And so you guys can go there again, forgivenessmission.com, in order to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. Dr. Singleton, once again, I want to say thank you so very much for being on. Thank you for taking out time to be here with me and my guests and my listeners. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Hey, I've heard this wonderful quote by one of my former mentors, the great Dr. Miles Monroe. I've had the chance to sit down with him and have conversations over the years, and he wrote a book called In Pursuit of Purpose. And one of the things that he always would say is the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life without a purpose. And he said, when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Find your purpose, find your mission, do something, and do it now while the time is here. And the last thing that I'll leave is, he said, no one was born to be a failure. You're not a failure. You're not a failure because of mistakes that you made. And remember what we say with champs. You're born to win in every situation in life. You can follow us at Champs Mentoring, all social media sites. Love you, and God bless each and every one of you.
No doubt. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Tees. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James.